All right, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I'd like to welcome everyone to the September 28th business meeting of the Grosse Ile Township Board of Trustees. Let's begin with the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, once again, thanks to those of you who are attending this evening, and thanks to you watching at home. We have the entire board present. Call the meeting to order at 7:32. And let's start with additions, deletions to the agenda. We had one item for removal. Item number 4, the lease contract with Smokies and the Water's Edge facility. So
I'll make a motion that we remove action item number 4 from the agenda.
Support.
Okay, moved by Treasurer Vano, seconded by Trustee Budney to move action item number 4. Discussion among the board.
So this was just for clarity, right? So this was on here in case we were ready to sign, but we're not ready to sign yet?
That is correct.
Okay.
Other questions, comments from the board? All right, none offered. Those in favor of removing action item number 4, the restaurant lease with Smokies, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Okay, that motion carries. I have an action item 6 I would like to...
We got 5. We have to... Are we adding 6?
I'm getting there.
Okay.
Okay, I want to do 6 because it just came out first. Action item 6 is at the request of the Township Attorney, and it was to add language to motion 15-052. That was the contract for the runway rehabilitation that the Township has entered into with Dan's Excavating. And the attorney wanted the authorization included in the in this motion. Add the language that add language to motion 15-052. The Grosse Ile Township Board of Trustees hereby authorizes Mr. Duker to sign the contract with Dan's Excavating, and our attorney, Mr. Assorti, to sign the attorney certification associated with the contract.
Support.
Okay, moved by Supervisor, seconded by Treasurer Van Oss. Those in favor, please signify by saying aye. I'm sorry, discussion.
Discussion?
I'm sorry, yeah, I'm getting ahead of myself. Any discussion?
Yes, Mr. Supervisor. I'd just like to know what's the reasoning behind that. You couldn't do that if it wasn't in the attorney couldn't do that if it wasn't in the action?
I don't want to say I couldn't do it. When I'm asked to sign an attorney's certificate at the end of the contract authorizing that it had the full authority, we had the meeting tonight. We certainly have time to do it. It makes it a lot cleaner if we just simply have authorization for Mike to sign and for me to sign specifically.
Okay.
Other questions, comments from the board? None offered. Those in favor of adding action item number 6, the addenda to the approval for runway 422 rehabilitation project, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? None offered. Okay, the hot button. As of press time earlier today, as we're putting agendas together, we did not have much documentation for the original action item number 5, and should the board not be happy with that, I'm offering an alternative to action item number 5. I think one has to fail before one can go on, so it wouldn't be appropriate to add this as an addenda. I think we'll wait and see what happens with action item 5, and should the board not to decide to go with the action item, we could bring this up as an alternative path. So we'll let that go. So we have 2 changes to the agenda: removal of action item 4 and the addition of action item 6. Other additions, deletions to the agenda. Okay, with none offered, those in favor of approving the agenda as amended, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? None offered. The agenda stands amended. With that, we'll move to public comment, brief public comment limited to tonight's agenda items. All right, Mr. Swales.
Good evening. Yes, my name is Mike Swales, 10225 Nancy's Boulevard, Grosse Ile, Michigan. Is the overhead functioning?
It is.
Oh, excellent. Thank you. So I'm here tonight just briefly to comment on action item number 5, the Splash Park contract. I am a member of the Grosse Ile Township Recreation Commission, and I'm the Marina sub-chairman. But on this issue, I just wanted to briefly comment. The document, which, if you can zoom in properly, and we're not going to read the whole thing, but it's a document prepared by Dale Riumi, our township manager, and it's about 20 bullet point items of the process that the Recreation Commission and the Recreation Director and a number of members of the township have went through over the past 6 or 7 months leading up to the opportunity for the commission to make the recommendation to the recreation manager for the splash park. I think it's a great idea. I've been a resident here for 15 years. I've seen a lot of things done over and over and over without any change, so I welcome some change and some opportunity for some new recreation opportunities. I think our recreation director, Brandy Boyd, had done a very thorough evaluation on the process. Seems like it's been a very transparent process. Been a lot of opportunity for everyone in this room to hear about and read about and learn about the proposals put forth. So just as a commissioner on that rec commission, I want to state that I have strong support for the splash park. And if you have any questions this evening, we'd love to try and answer them. Thank you.
Hey, thank you, Mr. Swales. Any other comment on tonight's agenda items? All right, with none offered, those. Oh, I'm sorry, Mr. Casher.
Walt Catcher, Hazelnut Court. I want to speak about action item number 5 also. I want to explain that the CRC, they support the splash pad park. No one was opposed on the commission level during this resolution, and during our vote, we sent this forward to you guys and to the board. There were now discussions obviously with action item 5 to cancel this project, and not at any time since this was approved by the board has there been a request to the CRC from this board to answer any questions or concerns. Now, this started with the introduction on March 9th to this board with a presentation. May 11th, you guys did vote and approve of this action item. And now here we are, September 28th, and still no formal requests were made to the CRC for more information. And I'm sure Tom can actually back this up with, for me, because he would be the one as the liaison to bring back any questions or concerns to the CRC Commission. My request to this board is to really just take pause, not to cancel this project. I think a lot of politics are involved right now. I don't think the CRC did anything wrong. We put everything forward. Everything became a mess at the board level. I certainly do not want to throw away a lot of money from the cancellation fees of this project or on lawyers to see what we can recoup. So please send us back to the CRC so we can answer your questions and address your concerns. Let's just take a breather and pause a little bit. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Casher. Other comment?
May I ask Walt a question, or someone on the commission a question? When did the commission know from the time that they sent it forward to us? How much information between that time and August 10th, how much information did you know as to what was going on?
And to pertain to what exactly, John?
Pertaining to the project.
Nothing.
Did you know, for instance, on July 27th that a contract was signed?
No, I did not.
Did you know on July 31st that a check was issued?
No, I did not.
Did you know that was going to happen?
I would hope so, because everything was approved.
Did you know that?
Yes, I would say I would know, because it was approved and nothing prevented it from being stopped. So like anything else with the seawall, I wouldn't know anything about that contract either.
Well, was anything said to you that these things were taking place? Actually said to the, and when I say you, I mean the commission. Not to you personally, but to the commission. Was it ever talked about from May until August? was there any discussion at your meetings as to how this was going, what was going on?
We would give updates. I would give updates on the park or where we're at. Would it be in the reports? Yes, it was done at the commission level.
So you were aware of what was going on?
Well, not about when exactly the check was signed or how much. We didn't know about that.
But you knew that the negotiations were going on?
Well,
I
wouldn't say negotiations. I mean, I would just say that the project was moving forward, John.
How would you know that?
Because it was approved, because that's the way it always works around here at the township.
But nobody told you.
If it gets approved, it moves forward.
I'm just asking,
Okay.
did anybody tell you it was moving forward? Tell you? Or is it just
Well, I would say absolutely they would have to, because I would just assume it was moving forward, Jim.
You assumed. Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Casher. Any other public comment on the agenda items? All right. With none offered, then we'll move on to consent agenda. Mr. Treasurer.
Thank you, Mr. Supervisor. I'd like to make a motion to approve consent agenda 15-057, which includes the minutes of the September 14, 2015 regular meeting and the check register dated September 25, 2015.
Support.
Okay, moved by Treasurer Van House, seconded by Trustee Budney for the consent agenda. Questions, comments on tonight's consent agenda from the board? Okay, with none offered, those in favor of approving the consent agenda, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? None offered? That the consent agenda stands approved. On to action items. Gosh, we didn't have a study session to assign these, so well, I'm going to wing it then. Parking lot repairs. That sounds like a paving job.
Let me get to number one. I'll be glad to. Okay. I'd like to propose a motion to authorize the township manager to enter into a contract with Campo Brothers in the amount of $76,823 to repair and resurface the Township Hall parking lot in accordance with the Campo Brothers proposal, GI Township Hall paving dated September 25th, 2015, and to further authorize the fire chief to enter into a contract with Campo Brothers in the amount of $25,770.24 to resurface and install drainage improvements at the north lot of the Public Safety Building in accordance with the Campo Brothers proposal, GI Public Safety Building paving dated September 25th, 2015.
Okay, moved by Trustee Budney, seconded by Trustee Smith.
History, Dale.
Thank you very much. Just to give an overview, obviously, this Township Hall parking lot is 15 years old. It's in need for some maintenance, and we did put some funds in the budget. In order to avoid paying for bidding cost, engineering cost, design costs, we worked and solicited bids and quotations from contractors we were actually under contract with. Unfortunately, one of the contractors that did the chip sealing paving was non-responsive. The answer that ultimately came back was, "I'm really too busy, and you wouldn't like my price anyway." So the unit price that we have on the parking lot out at Water's Edge Marina was quoted through Campo Brothers for the asphalt quantities. Did a quick review with the township engineer free of charge, and they said we were right on target. This is a good price. Well, while we were putting together this project, I was approached by the fire chief, who is also in need of some repair at the Public Safety Building. So we asked the same of Campo Brothers, and I'll let Chief Murdoch talk about his facility.
Under history, yeah, the parking lot at Public Safety is approximately the same age. It's around 12, 15 years old. We had an inherent problem with our parking lot because all our water shed from the roofs at that parking lot cross it and go under it to the ditch. And when the bike path was put in, that helped hinder getting water away from the building. So about 2 months ago, we had a drain put in the middle of the parking lot. And what we're doing now is draining the park. We're going to drain the parking lot into the ditch. Well, now with this new project, we're going to tie in the gutters on the front of the building into that storm sewer, along with putting a drainage sock on the backside of the curb to take up some of that water and tie that into the storm sewer so we can keep that water from shedding onto the top of the parking lot and underneath it. When we tore the parking lot out for the drain, it was pretty wet. It was pretty wet under there, and we're assuming a lot of that is due to the fact that we're shedding all that water from public safety across that parking lot. So the parking lot is in very poor shape, and it's a good time to get it fixed based on the numbers that this township manager came up with.
Mr. Budney.
Chief, the parking lot in question it's just that lot heading to the main entrance of the building, right?
Yes.
That's the only part that's involved here. Thank you.
Yeah, we did the south parking lot about 4 years ago, I think.
And it's not the wraparound to the back or anything?
No, that's all concrete.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
The back of the public safety building is concrete?
Yeah, from the driveway in, all the way around back, all the way out to the south side of the building is all, the only two asphalt areas is that very south parking lot and then the entryway.
Other questions, comments from the board?
No, and we had $125,000 budgeted for, actually not for the fire department, just for this, or fire public safety department, just for this particular building. I like the fact this is coming in way under budget, and that we're kind of piecemealing the project versus doing a whole tear out. So,
and our expenditures are out of our cell tower money, which is classified as building maintenance for public safety. There's approximately $81,000 in that account right now, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah.
Other questions, comments for the chief or the manager? Okay, looks good job with the unit pricing. Let's see. All those in favor of approving the Township Hall parking lot, and I guess by extension the public safety building repairs, Campo Brothers, $76,823 to repair and resurface Township Hall, and to authorize the fire chief to enter a contract with Campo Brothers in the amount of $25,770.24 to resurface and install drainage improvements at the north lot of the public safety building in accordance with the Campo Brothers proposal, public safety parking lot dated September 25th, 2015. Those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? None offered. That carries. Thank you. All right, let's see, action item number 2. This will be, no, it'll be the treasurer's because it's, nope, mine.
You assess, I collect.
All right, it's just this time of year. Recommendation that the Grosse Township Board of Trustees approve the levy of taxable value of said township for the year 2015 winter billing, a tax of 10.9352 mils on the taxable value thereof, said value being $574,444,262.
Support.
Okay, moved by supervisor, seconded by treasurer. 2015 winter tax levy must be approved by the Township Board by September 30th, and the L-4029, which is the document where we record these, submitted to Wayne County. We can add them all up, top to bottom. Our allocated millage, which is how we run your township government. The extra voted millage, which helps us run the township government and pay for public safety. 3 police millages, fire ops, fire equipment, recreation, rec operations, road maintenance, drainage, library, and the judgment bond. So a total mills is 10.9352. Total operations, 9.8352. Total debt, 1.1. Questions? This is kind of pro forma. And to answer, Wayne County is not on this, but I'm often asked, can we withhold, since Wayne County's not fixing our roads, can we withhold our Wayne County taxes and just spend them on roads ourselves? No, we can't. I'm not going to jail for that. And secondly, the Act 51, the road funding money, is not paid for with your property taxes. It starts at the federal government with the Transportation Improvement Program. It goes down through the state and auto registration fees, fuel taxes, a number of other taxes get lopped onto it. The state gets a big pot of money, and they decide how much is going to be spent on roads. If you went to any of the presentations by Pat Somerville, you get a good idea of just how this is dissected. But no, we're not. We can't dictate to the county what they're going to do with their tax collection. So I'd kind of be afraid to try it anyway. But so if there's any questions about that, you can ask me more specifics, but that's pretty much it. The Act 51, the road funding money is a totally different chain of custody. None of your taxes that go to Wayne County, and they're substantial, go to roads. So with that, questions, comments from the board? Take this one on my own, huh? All right. Those in favor of levying taxable values of Township of Grosse Ile for the year of 2015, winter billing a tax of 10.9352 mils on the taxable value thereof, that value being $574,444,262. Please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? None offered. Thanks. We'll go on running the business. All right. Action item number 3 for the Festival Commission.
Thank you, Mr. Supervisor. I am pleased to make a motion based on the recommendation of the Festival Commission that the Township Board appoint John Bergen to the Grosse Ile Festival Commission for the 3-year term of 2015 through 2018.
Support.
Okay, moved by Trustee Smith, seconded by Trustee Budney.
Mr. Bergen has actually been serving in place of Mr. Bill Moreau, who vacated his position, and we're really excited to have him on board. He's a creative thinker. He's a doer. He has all sorts of imagination and skills to bring to the table, so I think he would be a significant asset to that commission.
Other questions, comments among the board? I got to spend some time with Mr. Bergen at the Tour de Ile. He was one of the organizers of that with Rotary. Totally separate enterprise, and a lot of effort went in that part. Thoroughly likable, hard-working, lots of ideas, lots of energy. I think he'll be a great asset also to the Festival Commission, and I'm sure you're going to tell us how many days.
Oh, no, not yet. Not yet, no.
Save that.
Yeah.
We've got
There you go.
get your trustee report. Other questions, comments among the board? Okay, with none offered, those in favor of, based upon the recommendation of the Festival Commission, to appoint Mr. John Bergen to the Grosse Ile Festival Commission for the 3-year term of 2015 through 2018. Please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? None offered. That carries. Mr. Bergen, welcome aboard. Okay. Item 4 has been removed. Item 5, Mr. Budney.
Thank you, Mr. Supervisor. Part of this is easy, part of this is hard. First, the easy part. Propose a motion to cancel the Splash Park project, the Splash Park contract with Vortex USA, Inc., and to authorize the Township Attorney to negotiate the payment of fees for the project preparation work completed prior to August 18th, 2015.
Support.
Okay, moved by Trustee Budney, seconded by Trustee Smith.
All right, the hard part, the history.
Indeed.
The history, and I am going to try my hardest to try and keep this as civil as possible here. Starting out, we all have been through this quite truthfully. If you attended our last meeting and the discussion of it, but it starts out. We have a Splash Park timeline that has some of the things that went on up to September 14th. This project or idea started in February, and from February until August 10th, 19 things had been done. Of those 19 things, which included the rec commission's meetings and the board's meetings and study sessions, etc., of those 19 things, 8 of them were known the board. 11 of them were only known to a very small number of people. And some of them the most significant in this whole thing. On May 11th, the The Township Board voted to approve the splash park with Vortex by a 4-2 vote. The people that were, the trustees that were against this project were against it because we hadn't been given enough information to make what we thought was a good vote for yes for the project. What we had received up to that point, and I believe we had 4 meetings, study sessions, discussions here at the board. What we had received was a artist's rendering of what it would look like. That was our documentation, and a figure of about $600,000 with no documentation as to how that was arrived at. In one of our later meetings on this, the fourth out of the last out of the fourth, or possibly even the third out of the fourth, we were given some numbers as to how this would be paid back. They would borrow the money from the general fund, and this is how they were going to pay it back. And they had various numbers. We asked, what's the back up to that? Where did you get these numbers from? They don't seem to make sense. How did you come up with them? And we didn't get a good answer for that. So we progressed on. The vote was taken. During this, what's not shown on the timeline is from that day of the vote till August 10th, a number of us continued behind the scenes to say this has to be brought up again. It has to be discussed further. These numbers don't make sense. We had a number of residents stand up and give their opinions, and not one resident who stood up and talked was for this project. It made no sense to the residents. That isn't on the timeline, but that did transpire. So, finally, on August 10th, prior to our board meeting, we had a study session. Excuse me. At that meeting, at that study session, was the board. The chairman of the Rec Commission was there. Residents were there. And at least 4 employees were there of the township. Discussion was had, and it went just like it had gone before. Should we, shouldn't we do this? We think it's a bad idea. We haven't been presented enough information. We shouldn't go forward with it. Three people, besides the board members, 3 people were in on that discussion. 2 employees and a board member who was for it. We left that meeting with, as many of our study sessions, not knowing, okay, what exactly direction we were in, but certainly thinking we were talking about not doing this project. Proceeded to our regular meeting. At that meeting, a resident got up and asked the question, how much money has been spent on this project? The answer that was given was, we'll have to look into it. That ended August 10th. The morning of August 11th, everything hit the fan, because we came to find out that morning that a contract had been signed on July 27th, and a check for $125,000 plus had been issued on July 31st. So we went through our study session. We went through our board meeting with people who knew what was going on and not a word being said to us. So needless to say, some of us who were in the dark were outraged by this. So that proceeded, and you know, things were obviously said, things were looked into. On August 18th, supervisor instructed the township manager to call Vortex and tell them to put everything on hold. So Again, the contract was signed July 27th. The check was issued July 31st. So Vortex had approximately 2 weeks to do any work on this contract. On September 14th at our meeting, there was a discussion item of the splash park. And it did bring back old memories. But I would just say that from that discussion, we've come to this action item today, that this project has to be stopped at this point. The project has to be stopped. The contract has to be canceled. And if anything, if this is to come up again, it needs to start from scratch, and there has to be full disclosure all the way along the line. Information has to be given to this board as to what is behind various numbers and why they make sense for us to do it. Now is not the time to start that process. That process is long past as far as this project before us. We need to stop this, I believe, and this is my opinion, we need to stop it and go forward, and that's what the action item's about.
Okay, thank you, Trustee Budney. I don't think I'd be out of line saying there is a lot of opinion in that, but
absolutely.
Thank you. Gosh, I think the term we used when queried how much had been spent, because it was me, it was directed, I said that will take some research. I was unaware that the check had been written. I didn't know until later.
Mr. May I ask you a question?
Who, me?
Yes.
Yes, you may.
When you signed that contract,
I did, yep.
Did you read it?
Yes.
When you initialed that day, when you initialed the order, the invoice from Vortex, did you read it?
I read the part about the 30% deposit. I did not get my calculator out.
Okay. And, well, it had the number right next to it, what it was. And
again, I didn't know what the check was
let me
written
stop.
for.
Let me stop. When you also initialed the order to cut the check that day, did you read that?
I don't initiate orders to cut checks. It goes through the clerk's office to the general ledger and then to the treasurer.
Okay, so then let me ask you what this document is with your initials on it from the Rec Commission. It's the document from the Rec Commission spelling everything out, the 30%, the $125,000. I assume that was an approval to cut a check. Maybe I'm wrong.
Well, in most places, that's how we continue with contracts. When they specify they want a down payment, yes.
And it all happened on the same day. It all happened on the same day. And the contract says that upon the order from Vortex, that money has to be paid immediately. And that you signed it on the 27th. The check happened to be issued on the 31st. That you say you don't know it was issued. But you signed it on the 27th, and on August 10th, or after August 10th, when we found out about this, you say you don't know that check was issued. I would say...
All right, I'm not going to let you sit here and imply that I was misleading people. All right,
well,
you could have. At that meeting, did you ask if the check had been cut? No, nobody said.
No, because nobody knew. Nobody knew.
Anyway, I followed what I'm required to by policy and by law.
That was my question.
Did I follow the law? Yes,
No,
I did.
That wasn't my question. My question was, did you read the contract? Did you read the documents that spelled out you're supposed to issue that check immediately? That's all I'm asking.
I know you're going somewhere. I'm just not sure where it is.
Where I'm going is, if you're in charge and you're I believe you use the term chief executive officer.
That's the state's description of my position.
I believe we won't get into titles. I believe part of that responsibility is not just to sign off and say, well, I hope the contract gets taken care of, and if we default, we default, because I'm not looking into it. I don't understand that, Brian.
All right, at that August 10th study session, going into that meeting, we had 4 trustees who voted for it, 2 had voted against it, and 1 had sent it out of the Rec Commission with 100% support. 5-2, the board wanted this to happen. I executed my duties as the township supervisor. What is your tort?
My tort is, at that meeting, we walked out of there thinking nothing had transpired yet. There was an opportunity for 6 people to tell us, hey, a check's been cut. Hey, a contract's been signed. And that wasn't important information to give to this board. And we're talking in terms of canceling this thing, and you're going, yeah, maybe we should. That's the way that discussion went. No one said anything had transpired on that project. I don't understand that, and quite frankly, I find that, and I'm going to be very kind here, I find it to be some untruths told to us and very misleading. And as you know, in my email to the board, I used much stronger language, but I just don't. I can't imagine for 4 months of working on this, negotiating it, that the employees involved don't say anything to the commission, that nothing is said to this board, and that 6 people sat at that meeting knowing that the discussion was going the wrong way, that we weren't being told the truth, and nobody said anything. I don't understand that. I just don't understand it. And that, quite frankly, is what's leading to all this. This is why it's not a question, is it a good idea, is it a bad idea? I think originally we all 7 of us, thought this was not a bad idea, needed to be looked into. But like any other project, when you look into it, information comes back to you. Nothing came back to us but the same regurgitated information about a wonderful project. Here's the picture. It's going to cost $600,000. I will not ever vote for something when I don't have anything more than that to go on.
So there's a lot of what happened and did or did not happen, right? The fact of the matter is we've got an action item here, potentially cancel a contract. We've got cancellation costs, and we've got what I believe to be a pretty good alternative proposal of putting this thing on pause, investigating to try and reduce those costs a little bit more, and figuring out what to do here by, I don't know what the date is, the January time frame. So the cancellation costs, I'm sure people are asking what they are right now. The initial cancellation cost is $97,000, right? Not sure that's a realistic restocking fee after 2 weeks of work, so I don't think we would ever pay anywhere near that.
The way I currently understand the current motion.
I'm speaking. I'd like to at least finish my.
I'd like to make a recommendation.
I am speaking. I would like to continue my thought.
Frank, if you'd like to continue at my recommendation that the board not continue on these type of topics, that's fine.
I think we need to figure out what we're going to do, whether we're going to contract, whether we're going to cancel the contract, or whether we're going to investigate other options.
Well, and
on the cancellation, there are a couple other options that are probably worth looking into or requesting the CRC to look into.
Quite frankly, though, that all can be done after we cancel the contract. Nothing stops us from.
We don't know that. We don't know that. We stop this contract. We may get hung for fees. We don't know if we don't know that.
Right.
We want to continue. I want us to continue talking to Vortex, stopping this project until we know more.
Well, I have my feelings on Vortex, and I think Mr. Assorti is correct. This is not a time to be discussing Vortex and what they're doing. This is not the proper venue for that. We can look into other projects. I have no problem with that. We don't have to keep this contract alive to do that. It does not have to happen. And it hasn't been said yet, but believe me, this project is causing a lot of distrust amongst the residents of this island. And that's an even bigger reason to get rid of it and show them that, okay, we need to do this correct.
And I'm sure, I'm just going to jump in here, when trustees are throwing out comments like deception and half-truths, that certainly adds to the perceived mistrust. I supported this project on a grander scale because we're bleeding $30,000 a year in the pools. We sat together, us three,
Yes,
went through those numbers, and tasked Brandy, Miss Boyd, to find a way to stop the bleeding. She proposed this. I looked at it. This looked like an attractive alternative. It could return some revenues. Other communities are getting revenues out of them. And it looked like an opportunity to attract younger families with a more up-to-date, anticipated recreational amenity. We're losing residents. The schools are losing students. School enrollment's down, island residents, 13% in 10 years. 141 schools of choice kids this year. The school bond lost by 142 votes. Okay? The Faustian bargain. We need young families here, and from a more selfish perspective, I want younger families with younger men and women to be firefighters, because I don't want guys my age trying to carry me out. You know, we need, thanks, Chief.
Yeah.
You and me both.
Brian, I want people to be trustees, so you don't have to be.
I want to appeal to younger families, okay? Communities in Wayne, and this was an attractive amenity. It had the potential to stop our losses of the pools, and we all, 5 of us thought it was a great idea. The Rec Commission.
4.
Well, again, Mr. Malvesta wasn't here to vote, but his last comment at the Recreation Commission meeting that brought this forward was 100% in support. So, and again, not hearing otherwise, I assumed 5-2 support at that meeting. I still think it's a good plan. I think we should wait. Miss Boyd is sending home, what'd you call them, backpacks, flyers to the school-age kids. We have the Recreation Master Plan is due again. It's due for renewal. I want the Rec Commission, I'm going to task them, should this continue, to hold forums on what amenities they want, and I'm going to ask them to start with the pool complex. If nobody cares about the pool, then we replace it with something that the residents want. If nobody wants the little pool, we replace that with something they want. If everybody wants a splash park, we'll give them a splash park. But we don't know what I know that some very vocal ones have come forward, but my first push on this on Facebook came back overwhelmingly positive.
And how much of your push on Facebook did you talk about the financial end of it, and how much did you talk about just, wouldn't your kids like a splash park? That is not talking about the issue. You go and ask second graders, you're sending surveys home, and this, believe me, brings back memories of that I wish I could forget. But asking the kids, geez, do you want this? And quite frankly, the last time it happened, 70% of the kids said no, everything was okay, and you still went ahead with the project. You don't ask the kids.
Well, it goes to their parents, but
yeah,
the ones who are going to pay for it.
And may I ask Brandy, who did you give that to? But who at the school did you contact? Administrative? And she said she'd do that. Okay, all right. Because I talked to the school board, and those school board people told me that they would not do this. They would not, because they didn't want to be tied in to this project. And is the minute they do, help out, they're tied in.
Brandy?
Yeah. Anyway, no, that's a side issue, and that's not part of this. But.
Okay. Some of us are for it. Some of us are tepidly for it. 2 are dramatically opposed to it.
You on now?
Why don't we let somebody else talk?
That's it. We're still in board discussion.
Are you done?
Yeah, so Jim, regarding your, wanting to be transparent, that's why I wanted to have the name or the number of the current restocking fee right now that is at least known to us right now. Whether or not we agree with it or not, it's a different story. But that's from a transparency standpoint. I want to make sure that's clear to the residents.
Yeah, and absolutely.
Right.
I mean, it came in
because that's part of what we need to decide tonight.
It came in late this afternoon at 97, I think 97,750, and so in 2 weeks. These guys, well, I don't know. What am I doing? I just said I didn't want to talk about it, and he gets me to talk about it. I'm sorry. I will. That shouldn't be talked about.
Mr. Treasurer.
See, I said we weren't going to get out of here early tonight. I knew it.
Let me put your suit out.
I just have a couple of comments. Without going into the details of the restocking charges or the contracts, all of the things that have come down on this thing, a lot of them extremely negative, a lot of name-calling, a lot of position swapping. I was totally unprepared for this when it came through the first time. I was a little bit uncomfortable voting in favor of not the project. I thought the project was a pretty good project. I falsely assumed, and shame on me, that this would be coming back through the bid process. If there was going to be a bid process, it was going to come back through the engineering process, so we'd see what the final product was. None of that happened. I mean, it just moved. It got on a fast track and moved. And I'm not criticizing. That's just what happened. When I see the details of the cost of cancellation, I'm a little uncomfortable with the contractor now. And I would think that if I had my choice here, or if I were going to recommend something to this board, or what I think should be done, I think this contract should be canceled and negotiated by the attorney. I'm sure as part of that negotiation, it may come back to apply some of those funds to a different project. I'm sure that's going to happen. But I think everybody, or several of the people on this board, are uncomfortable from where it's at right now. And I think we should cancel this contract, turn it over to the attorney, and let him do what he does and bring it back to us in whatever form he wants to bring it back. I'm not going to say it's good, bad, or indifferent, but I'm really uncomfortable with some of the things I've heard tonight. So that's. I think at this point in time, we'd be much better off making the restart of this possibly part of the negotiation. I would say we cancel a contract. That's my opinion.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Treasurer. Other comments? I'm still, again, it's not costing us anything at this point. We don't know what the residents want. We have an opportunity. We need to poll the residents anyway, because we have to redo the master plan. If the results come back in overwhelmingly in favor, then we would be obliged. We would presumably be obliged to carry on. If they come in overwhelmingly for something else, then we've done our jobs. We've gotten our input from the residents, who eventually pay for it, whichever route we go, and we do what they tell us to do. That would be that is the motion, or that's the direction I want this to go in.
I don't disagree with all of that involvement. I don't disagree with it coming back to this board as a project with community input, with open forums. I don't have any problem with that. But I think the contract, as we wrote the contract, which ended up not being the contract that was initially finished, and you have your reasons for it. And I'm not criticizing that, but it's not the original contract. This thing is so convoluted at this point, it needs to stop and revisit it. And as I said, I will not use a splash park. I guarantee you won't see my butt in it. But that doesn't mean that some of the people here have children that want to use that splash park. And I think we need to stop the bleeding. So if we're not going to stop the bleeding with the splash park, how are we going to stop the bleeding? All those issues have to be addressed. But I think we need to move forward with this project on hold, let the attorney do what he does, and he'll come back to us and make his recommendations one way or the other. I know the township manager's been working on it, and I know the supervisor's going to work on it. But as we pass this thing, it just doesn't feel good. just doesn't feel good to me, so.
Okay,
You know
you
what my
mentioned
vote
two
is,
things.
so-
You said on hold or cancel. You said it the same. So you're
Well, what I'm saying is the contract, as we
specific.
processed it, let's cancel it. And whatever comes back to us, we'll readdress. And if it's going to come back to us, it needs to come back to us with some facts, figures, and some public input. And I'm not going to get into anything else that was said because I'm not going to throw any stones here. That's my opinion.
okay. Again, I'd like to review the alternative, which covers all of that anyway.
Well, I
Mr.
just
Buddy?
see if Wally or Tom have anything to say.
I would like to defer to you, Tom. You're the liaison to the commission. I'd like to hear what your thoughts are now.
Anybody who watched or listened to attended the last township board meeting knows exactly my feelings of this. I will not saddle this township with a $600,000 debt, push it 17 years down, $600,000 plus interest, and push it 17 years down the road for a project that may not even be in existence by the time it's paid off. I represent this township as a whole, not just the rec department. And I will not saddle the residents with that type of a debt without a plan in front of me, without numbers, detail, a drawing. That's what I said last time around. There has been 5-6 months opportunity to discuss options for this project. It has not come back before this board. Discussions took place in a study session, one-on-one, face-to-face, all the time, asking that we slow this project down and put it off until next year. After we find out what happens with other things within the rec department. It didn't happen, but I will not vote to support a $600,000 debt for the next 17 years. That's my opinion.
Thank you. That's quite a change from your original position.
Please don't tell me what my changes are. You heard my opposition last meeting.
And I heard your support the time before that and the time before that.
No, you did not sit at a rec commission meeting and hear me support anything. Nor did I vote in favor of this project on the date that it was voted for. It was a 4-2 vote. I was not there. I would have said the same thing until we have facts and figures in front of us. I would not support it, and I will not saddle this township with that type of debt 17 years down the road. We represent this entire island, and we need to be fiscally smart and watch how their dollars are being spent. I just don't find at this time there's enough numbers to support going forward with the project. That's my feelings, and that's what I've said. I'm on record for it. Please don't put words in my mouth.
I put no words in your mouth, Tom. I heard what I heard. Two of you on this board were opposed from this from the beginning. And I think I expressed my opinion of that opposition, that I appreciated your support and your opinion. You have a right to that. One of you wasn't at the first vote. But again, we heard quite a bit of support up the run from the Community Recreation Commission that I think the word's 110% in support about this. And so I'm troubled by some of this delay, and that's my prerogative. Everybody has an opinion, and I have my own. But after the first vote, there was some stirring. And you will recall, even though the two of you, Jim and Lauren, that I said I didn't see any harm in having a delay while we sorted things out. After the last meeting, I said, I don't see any harm in delaying anything while we sort things out. And now, I'm not changing that position. I don't see a harm in putting it on hold until we sort things out. We have nothing to lose by that. We have a lot to gain by it. There's going to be some cost involved in this, guys, ladies. But again, let's sit back, Let's find out what the parameters of what our obligation are. I don't think we should cancel anything. I think we should put it on hold until we, in fact, come back, go back to the board, the Recreation Commission, let them take a good shot at it again to see if they want to support or not, and go from there. And if they come back with a recommendation, that recommendation will come through the liaison. The liaison will bring it to this board, and we will decide at that point. That's the way it works here. All of our work is done by commissions and committees, and it's always brought forward to this board by someone who is a liaison. Let's do this again. I'm done listening to tirades. I'm done listening to bad-mouthing. I want to see it solved. I was in support of a delay. I am still in support of a delay. I'm not changing. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Pozask. Other comments from the board?
No.
Mrs. Smith.
You talk about population decline and issues. I don't think anybody can argue with that, but I want to point out that a splash park is not going to be the magic bullet. And I know the need in panic to try and do something to fix a problem, but I don't think that this is our solution. We're an island. We have really bad roads. We've got obstacles in getting here. And we all know that, but we like it, We live here, so we deal with it, We've got bridges, we've got trains, we've got issues when it comes to, when people consider moving to Groseal or Canton or Northville or Novi or Troy or Birmingham or anywhere else, they take the sum total of everything, not just a splash park. And I cannot vote for something that costs $600,000. And I recall the conversation during the initial vote to put this contract in place. 6 of us who were here all said that we should be taking some more time with this. But the damn thing went to a vote. And I don't know how that happened. I mean, I left here going, we all just said, well, there's probably more information we could have. We could probably take some more information. And had we just at that moment maybe taken a step back and said, all right, well, I've heard everybody. Let's not put this to a vote. We wouldn't be here. I guess now that we have the time or the thought process and how we can potentially fix this, because they're talking about a master plan and kicking it back to the recreation department. But one of the things I haven't heard yet is establishing a timeline for that, because that's one thing I think that we're very good at, or maybe very bad at, is actually establishing timelines for results.
Okay.
So to me, it's okay, 6 months CRC, you get 6 months, whatever the time may be. But we need to be driving the process, I feel. And then they need to be coming back to us and say, well, 6 months is just unrealistic. And this whole master plan thing, I don't know. This is my first time around with the master plan at a CRC level. So I don't know how long it takes them to flesh that out. So if we say, okay, consider this in your master plan, come back to come back to us with your master plan in a year, whatever it may be. But there's no timeline. I think without that, it's just going to be another can kicked down the road, and we're still going to be desperate and trying to figure out what to do with that kiddie pool there. And I mean,
if I can answer your 2 timing concerns, we moved quickly on this because we had a plan in place to get this open at the end of this summer. She wanted to have some or part of it open by the end of this season. Okay, that obviously didn't happen, so we figured we'd have it open for next season.
I'm not talking about the timing for that.
Well, that's the reason it happened quickly in the spring. On my alternative, I do have a timeline. I want answers at least on Water's Edge, what the residents want on Water's Edge by the January 28th board meeting. That'd be the second one, because we start our budgeting right after that. So if we have an idea of the direction that the rec department wants to go, we can either put funds into preserving the wading pool, into pickling it off, into doing what the residents tell us to do at forums to be hosted by the rec commission. So I did put a chop date in there for information, because that's when we start budgeting and planning. So I did take that. I did take that into account. What else can I do to make you feel better about my alternative plan?
Nothing.
Nothing like an open mind. Sorry, Lauren, just kidding. Love you. Other questions, comments from the board? All right. So, Mr. Clark.
So one more. So I know that there's a couple different options here that are written in front of us, right? With some fill-in, so maybe it's appropriate, because we've had a lot of discussion on this, to
two of them were there in case we got a number that we could live with.
Right.
Like if they had come back and said $2,000 to cancel it, the first one would have been read. With the figure which we got late today, and don't even know what what it's from. We have had what the motion was, to turn it over to the attorney to negotiate the payment of fees on the project preparation prior to August 18th. That's the motion.
So then, just for clarity, so this motion would authorize zero payment. So any negotiated amount would come back.
With
a fee, or hey, here's a different plan.
Something.
Whatever the option's going to be.
Right. Well, the fee to get out of the contract. That's what we're looking for, the fee to get out of the contract. Again, any alternatives to still do something like this can all be done without this contract being alive. That's all I want to say on it. I don't feel comfortable. I do not feel comfortable, and quite truthfully, a lot of residents that have come to me and talked to me about it, they do not feel comfortable with this hanging over our head. It as Ted so eloquently said, there's so many things that have gone into this that just don't appear right. We need to start from scratch. We need to get rid of the whole thing and start from scratch. And that's my opinion. And that's how I'll vote.
Gosh. I'm going to, again, should we pull the rug out from under Vortex? We don't know if they'll talk to us again. We don't know.
They have to.
Well, they have to because they're...
Because they have to...
What? No, if
you mean about another project?
Yes, okay. They already threw some out there, some reduced plans. I'm not even going to bring those up. But if we make a decision that costs us thousands of dollars just in attorney's fees, money, just a sunk cost, and we get response from the residents that, yeah, we'd like that. We'd like that instead of the pools. Save that money we're losing in the pools, get something that may return revenue. And we've thrown these dollars away, then we've made a bad decision. We're rushing this decision based on your hurry to kill this thing and maybe start over and maybe not. But let's wait until we hear. Let's wait till we hear from the residents. It doesn't cost us any more.
That you've heard from the residents. You've heard, and again, all of it was no. You heard from people who say they take their children to the water's edge, who said no.
We heard from one.
How many?
I heard from one at a public meeting.
Okay, I hear it every Saturday.
Okay,
but that's all hearsay.
Yeah, correct me. 54 a day was your average residence at the pool. So 54 people are reasonably happy with the pool as it is. They get a private pool for their $3 admission fee, but that leaves about 10,000 people who aren't happy with the pool. Well, I'd like to get more of those coming over to recreation.
Golly gee whiz, shouldn't we have done that at the beginning and not now when the plan that was snuck through is on the table to be canceled? Now we want to do our homework. We can do our homework after this is canceled or not.
Well, I went with the recommendation of the Recreation Commission. this is normally how these things are handled, kind of a normal operation, and here we are.
I looked at it too, and I saw nothing behind the recommendation, and that was my problem. It's still my problem today. There's nothing there.
So I'm
Mr. Clerk.
My issue is not with what's there, what's not there, and obviously I did vote to approve this based on the recommendation of the CRC and input from others as well. The concern that I have right now is we still don't know how we're going to come out of this fire deal, right? So we've lost a lot of equipment in there. I still haven't heard how that's actually going to finally end up. So to me, there are more things than just the splash pad that are weighing on my decision right now. So that's a big one. The roads are a big one. The negative feedback is another big one. So I guess my question to Mr. Sorty is, we've obviously got a couple different options here. So one of them is to cancel, and are we better off going that route, or would we have a better option of the hold route? And I know you probably haven't been prepared for that specific question, but
let me be clear that my only goal in this whole situation is the ultimate protection of the township at a later point. I'm not trying to keep any numbers from being discussed or anything else happening. I simply, if you guys are going to vote on authorizing me to negotiate a contract, I want to take the best possible position I can. That was my only concern. You can vote to cancel it and for me to negotiate terms. You can agree to, you can give me a maximum number. You could extend it. We could go into closed session. We could talk about what that maximum number might be. There's all kinds of options. I'm not sure.
So maybe the question here is with the motion as it is right now, does that give you sufficient leverage, or does that handicap you?
I think that the one that was made, which was to cancel the contract and authorize me to negotiate a resolution of the current situation.
Contract.
Of the current situation, that wouldn't handcuff me in any way.
Thank you.
But you have to be given some guidance by this board, or are you just going to try to, I don't know what you would go in with. We're going to cancel the contract and we don't want to pay anything. That's your opening position, and their opening position is $97,000.
Brian?
Without getting into too much detail, I'm sure I could gather information with that authorization, come back to you at the next board meeting with the current status, and we could at that time discuss what the possibilities are and what the likelihood of resolving it favorable along the lines of what the board feels is appropriate.
All right. Anything? Normally I have to drag them up here. You just came right up. Thank you, Mr. Sorty. I'm sure
Question.
Okay. Yeah, you did. Thank you.
All right, thanks.
My concern is we haven't heard through a formal means, given the residents a chance to speak. The Rec Commission is fully capable, and they're going to need to hold those forums anyway, an open house, to find out what's expected of them. We should make that happen before we make a decision that could cost us tens of thousands of dollars.
Well, why don't we have a study session?
We could include that also. But if we cancel this contract, then okay, but that's going to cost, and it may be something we recover. Maybe it may not.
You think you assume it'll cost?
On a splash park that could potentially flop.
We're circling here. Can we call
We are.
Yeah,
All right.
we are.
Any other constructive additions to the discussion?
Mr. Supervisor,
Ms. Posiask.
I'm just sitting here and trying to decide this alternative, and I'll throw it out. If we cancel the contract, we basically told Vortex we're not interested, and we start in a bad position, right? Because they've already told us what they want for a cancellation fee. If we put them on hold, there is the possibility that we could continue somewhere down the road. And perhaps that softens their position on a cancellation fee. That's the reason I kind of like, and I've been saying it, delay, delay, delay. Here I am saying it, delay again. Don't cancel, delay.
Yeah, we don't know how they're going to react, and they may not. We don't know. We don't know. Anything I said would be speculation.
I mean, we're acting as though this business has been in, for 30 days or something. I'm sure that they've had this come up before. Let's let Mr. Assorti do what he does best and negotiate down to a reasonable expectation for what we can pay to get out of this. And we can go back to them, because trust me, they'll be happy to do business with us again in the future. Right?
That's speculation.
Well, I mean, so Eric, so just along those lines, right? I mean, they've offered a couple different proposals here that are significantly less expensive, and maybe one of those is the resolution we choose to take down the road, right? We're not taking a resolution right now, right? There's option for different resolutions as we move forward here.
One of the other hang-ups on this project was the fact that we only looked at one company, and now they throw out a figure that we don't like, but let's see. I mean, there's a lot of things about it, but yeah, maybe we want to do this project again.
Okay,
you're worried about them. Maybe we don't want them.
Yeah.
All right, we picked them. They were on the government approved providers list.
We didn't want to go out for bids and look at other people. We wanted to rush this along, so we picked that.
Your opinion. Okay.
My opinion.
All right. I think we've beaten this horse. Sorry if your animal lovers didn't. Any further comments before we go to a vote? All right. So, those in favor of canceling the Splash Park project and the Splash Park project and the Splash Park contract with Vortex USA Incorporated, and authorize the Township Attorney to negotiate the payment of fees for the project preparation work completed prior to August 18, 2015, will signify by saying aye. I'm going to do a roll call vote. I will begin with voting no. Mr. Clerk?
Aye.
Mr. Treasurer?
Aye.
Mr. Budney?
Aye.
Ms. Smith?
Aye.
Mr. Malvesto?
Aye.
Mr. Posiask?
Nay.
Okay, it's 5-2. Mr. Budney's motion carries, which takes action item 5A off the list, and we'll move to action item 6.
6, I got that.
Okay.
Want me to do this, or you want to do this?
You can do it. Yeah, it's part of your
Part of my airborne?
Sorry. I'm sorry, Ted.
The action item before us is to change the language to, or the motion the language that was in 15-052, the Grosse Ile Township Board of Trustees hereby authorizes Mr. Michael Duker, Grosse Ile Municipal Airport Manager, to sign a contract with Dan's Excavating for the Runway 422 Rehabilitation Project. Further, Mr. Thomas Assorti, the Grosse Ile Attorney, to sign the attorney's certification associated with the aforementioned contract. Now, this is
Okay, moved by Treasurer Vano, seconded by Trustee Smith.
This is a contract we already approved. We've signed a contract, or we've approved the contract. This is just language to make everybody happy.
Correct. It's really just an addenda on our previous approval. It's just some house cleaning. We missed the approval for the township attorney to sign the specific contract between the airport and the contractor itself. So
that's good.
So we'll ensure that's on future motions going forward. All right, discussion among the board. Those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? None offered? You are so authorized, Mr. Duker and Mr. Assorti. Okay, my stack of stuff. Lost my agenda. Where are we?
Clerk's report.
Clerk's report. Clerk's report, Mr. Clerk Rankin.
So, Mr. Supervisor, there is an election coming up on November the 3rd. The last date of registered vote is October the 5th at 5 p.m., so that's next Monday, I believe. Absentee ballots are available upon request to qualified voters, according to state Michigan election law. Applications for absentee ballots are available online at www.grosseal.com/the clerk's page, or by calling or visiting the clerk's office prior to 2 p.m. on Saturday, October 31st. Public accuracy tests of the voting equipment and programming will be held Monday, October 26th at 7 p.m. in the clerk's office at Township Hall. We did have a planning commission meeting. It was the first one in several months because we had lack of agenda topics, and we are bringing a request to approve the master plan for another 5 years, but we'll see that in full at the next meeting. And that's it for the clerk's report.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Clerk. Mr. Treasurer.
Yes, sir. The August investment report for Grosse Ile Township is not available at this time, but it will be online and on my website as of tomorrow. And you can pick it up at the Township Hall if you'd like to see it. That's where all of our investment goes. The 2015 summer tax bills are now past due. Late payments will be accepted only through the Treasurer's office and will not be accepted at the local bank branches. As of October 1st, the penalty will be 2% of the base amount. To require about the amount of the late penalty due, please call the Treasurer's office or look online at grosseal.com. An additional 1% penalty will be assessed for late payments per calendar month until the delinquency date of March 1st, 2016. Beginning on the 2nd, all unpaid 2015 property taxes will have to be paid through the Wayne County's Treasurer's office, and you'll have to go down there to do it. I think there are some instructions online from Wayne County if that should happen. As of today's date, we've collected 94.5% of the summer tax levy for the counties, schools, and townships. Distributions were made actually today to the schools and the county. I have nothing further.
Thank you, Mr. Treasurer. We'll move on to trustee reports. Mrs. Smith.
I have no reports today. Thank you.
No countdown to?
No.
Okay. Mr. Malvesto.
Chief, do you want me to speak about the open house, or do you want to come up here and make... Okay. This Sunday from 1 to 4 at the Public Safety Building, there will be a fire department open house. There's going to be clowns, balloons, pony rides. I'm sorry, Chief. I told you should have come up here, right? No, there will be hot dogs and other treats, as there have been in the past. It's always been heavily attended, and the fire department invites everyone to show up and take a look around, see all the equipment that they use to support us when they make their emergency runs, their fire runs. The guys will all be there. The kids have always had a good time. Chief, did I miss something beside the ponies? All right. I think that's it. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Malvesto. Let's move on to Trustee Budney. Mr. Budney.
Well, thank you, Mr. Supervisor. Just a quick note, Chief. I noticed on your sign for the open house, if you're heading north, it says October. You can't see the date real well. You might just look at it so people know when it is. Next DPS meeting is October 13th. There will be a ZBA meeting, or potentially a ZBA meeting October 27th, because we had an appeal that was tabled, so it should be coming back. More importantly, I want to mention that tomorrow at 7 o'clock here in the boardroom, the Public Service Commission is having an open house to discuss the road millage. Obviously, we want to get information out to the voters regarding what the millage is about and why we feel we have to do it. I can't emphasize enough that we are merely going to get information out to you. It's up to you whether you vote for it or not. However, the most important part of having these meetings and talking to people is to answer any questions that you have regarding the millage. We want to make sure that when you go to vote, you're voting based on fact. You're not voting based on myth or things that you heard at Kroger's. We want you to know what exactly is going on, why we feel it's going to be up to Grosse Ile to do this. And so I encourage you, if you don't understand it, I encourage you, I actually encourage you, if you're against it, to please come and tell us why. Tell us how we can do this, how we can save our roads, and do it in a different manner than what we've come up with. So please, tomorrow we will have a second open house. Tomorrow is just an open house. On October 13th, before our regularly scheduled meeting, we will have a second open house to cover this, and they will be broadcast. So, but if you're at home, you can't ask the questions, and that's what we really want from you, is your questions regarding this. So please come down and take advantage of this and be informed.
Will you repeat that time again, please?
7 o'clock. 7 o'clock tomorrow, right here. And 7 o'clock October 13th.
Thank you, Mr. Budney. Mr. Posias.
Thank you, Mr. Supervisor. Will you be reporting on the county bridge, sir?
I will push that out.
All right.
I'll give the latest.
October 6th, the Greenways Open Space Committee will be meeting again. And a lot of things going on, Greenways Open Space. If you go by the trail across from Meridian School, you'll see a mountain of chips. Cliff is ambitious, and he's taking 5-gallon pails at a time to cover the fit strip. It's a nice start. They're going to have a nice fit strip when it's done. Dump the Junk. My friend Mr. Clark is not here to advertise, but it'll happen on October 10th and 11th, weather permitting. Our oak wilt survey, say that 3 times fast, it continues. And as an aside to that, our wood cutting, which is a primary way that oak wilt can be spread from red oak to red oak, is still on hold. BPAC, bike path, that's my Wildcats committee. I talk about them like that all the time, hurting them. But boy, are they working hard now. They're herded. There is a walk to school day coming on October 7th. Aaron Himmelsbeck, Jane Fiegel, and our Ted Fournier are all involved in various aspects of what's going to happen to walk to school day. And Ted has graciously donated his time putting together some videos of kids taking their own self videos as they walk to school. And I guess we're going to have some sort of a contest, and there'll be a winner of a prize. And very proud of Ted for what he's done there. He's probably got more background on it, but it looks like he's busy. And end of my report, sir.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Posias. Let's see, we'll move on to Township Attorney report. Any, Mr. Sorty?
Last week, I attended a meeting at the 33rd District Court with the 3 judges, the court administrator, and the representatives from the other communities that participate in the 33rd District Court. Ms. Amy Zawacki was introduced to us as the new court administrator. I think some of you know Peg Krizin, that had been the court administrator there for quite some time. Peg was gracious enough to fill in after she retired, and her replacement decided to move on rather quickly. So the 33rd District Court has a new administrator now, and I just wanted to report that to you, and that I'm pretty excited about some of the things that we're already talking about doing, like full Wi-Fi for the police officers and the prosecutors throughout the courtroom, so that we can access not only our ordinances, but whatever information we need. And we're already talking about those things right out of the get-go, so that's pretty exciting. So, thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Sorty. Mr. Im, Township Manager.
Parking lot, right?
Thank you, Mr. Supervisor. When you speak of the bridge and the construction, if you would, I see it on top of the alert, remind them of Code Red. I wanted just to remind everyone on the Girlsville website, girlsville.com, if you look down on the bottom under the news and announcement section, fixing our roads and water system, which Trustee Budney referenced earlier. The issue information is the actual flyer or mailer that went out to everyone, and the video information is actually an infomercial that myself and Chairman William Kostick did last week, and it kind of turned into a question-answer type thing. So I just want to point out that these two references are here and available, and would encourage everyone to do so and watch. And if photos start here, Brandy, I'll turn this over to you.
If you haven't been by the marina lately, the kayak launch was completed as of Saturday afternoon. The pier and dock were installed about a week and a half ago, and then we were waiting for the pier work and the asphalt, and that was done this weekend. So that was one picture of the launch. Here's the parking lot from one angle. And they were doing, they're finished grading that. They dropped a bunch of the gravel and stuff off today, so they'll finish up the restoration work today and tomorrow. Here is the side from the other side of the launch. So I just wanted to update you that it was completed and finished, or will be totally finished tomorrow afternoon with the gravel work to smooth out the parking lot. I haven't been here a full year, but I know the process is, it had been approved over a multi-year process to get all the money from the CDBG money that purchased their kayak launch. So it's been a 3 or 4 year process. So it is actually finally complete and usable, and we are working with Wayne County to have a ribbon cutting ceremony. So just wanted to update you on that. And then if I could just put a little ad in, our Fall Festival is coming up on October 10th from 1 to 4 at Centennial Farm. You can get tickets in advance for $4 or $5 at the door.
Thank you, Ms. Boyd. Oh, okay. Supervisor's report, bunch of odds and ends. Hopefully, okay. First up, Grosse Ile celebrate 2015 homecoming on Friday, October 2nd. Homecoming, and that's this coming Friday. Parade begins at 4:30. It's on Macomb Street. Plan on Macomb Street being closed for an hour or so while we run the parade. Please be careful. There'll be a lot. Hopefully, there'll be a lot of people out. And the football game begins at 7 p.m. We welcome all residents and former residents back to Grosse Ile for 2015. Enjoy the festivities and your visit. Wayne County Household Hazardous Waste Collection Saturday, October 10th, which is, I believe, the same as the Dump the Junk.
Yes, it is.
Anyway, dump the heavy stuff off first here, and then the hazardous stuff to the Wayne County Community College Downriver campus. Flyers are available in the back of the room, and that flyer looks like all the other ones, just the dates have changed. Heritage Tree Registry. Okay, let's see. Mr. Posey asked Phil a little bit on BPAC, and Carol put these together, but there is a glow ride Wednesday evening. I'm not sure what all that involves other than lighting up bicycles, but I'm going to be there because it just looks like fun. And there's also 2 lazy rides left, one on October 17th and one on October 21st. So let's get all the mileage we can out of our bike paths for as long as we can before they're covered with snow. But the glow ride is this Wednesday evening. Looks like fun. Grosse Ile Heritage Tree registration entry forms are available in the back of the room. This project is ongoing, but the deadline is October 1st. This is the glow roll. This is the Heritage Tree flyer. This year's deadline is October 1st. That's a couple of days. So if you have a tree you consider a heritage tree, you want to be recognized for it and for not cutting it down, that's the way to get get it on the list. Westcroft Gardens on Grosse Ile present their 15th annual Phantom Forest Hayrides. Take place every weekend from September 25th to October 25th. For information and tickets, Westcroft Gardens at 734-676-2444 or online at www.westcroftgardens.com. DIA program is in its last month. It goes away on October 31st. And I can't thank Carol and Donna Hinson enough for landing this. I think it's really cool. People still talk to me about the portrait outside the door. It was just neat. It was a great tour. But they're going away October 31st, so the map is there. There's some description. This map doesn't have a description of the artworks, but we have those downstairs. Make sure you get a chance to see them. I mentioned John Bergen and the Tour de Ile. That was this past Sunday. It was married up with the Detroit Tour. Detroit had marked out trails. There were thousands and thousands of cyclists riding these marked trails throughout the southeast Michigan. So Grosse Ile Rotary partnered with them and set up their Tour de Ile the following day using some of the marked routes out to Northville and back. We had over 300 cyclists here on the island. Weather was perfect. Some people rode out to Northville and back. Some rode around the island. We had kids getting their passports stamped for all the stops they made on their bicycles. It was a great time. I want to thank all the residents who were courteous. And there were no automobile bicycle injuries. We had a couple of spills, minor incidents. That'll happen with a bunch of bicycles. But the residents who welcomed these guests to our island, thank you. I had got nothing but good comments. I was just real proud of everything. We are talking about the Wayne County Bridge. It's closed tomorrow. If you sign up for Code Red, you got a notification this evening. I got mine coming in at about 7. So if you haven't signed up for Code Red, you're missing out on the good stuff. But the Wayne County Bridge will be closed for bridge repairs and hopefully any paving up to it, but I don't control that. From 10 to 2 tomorrow, we'll try to keep the Facebook postings, the website postings, and GI Radio. We'll try to keep you updated if it goes longer or if it opens sooner. So check before you attempt to cross the Wayne County Bridge. And don't ever call it a free bridge because there are no free roads, and that bridge is very, very expensive. You're paying for it, just not up front. Okay. Last Thursday, this was, to me, it was a memorable evening. The Downriver Guidance Center is sponsoring a Kids Talk program, and I'm sure Chief Porcerelli knows the horror that surrounds this concept. They've procured a home, a safe shelter in downtown, refurbished it, and the concept is for abused children, battered children, captured. What's the term? What used to be the slavery, the human trafficking children. Once these kids are rescued from the dangerous situation, then the legal process begins. And in times past, you could have a 7-year-old facing a prosecutor and a defendant and being put through the trauma all over again. With this Kids Talk program, the kids are interviewed once in a controlled environment, in a safe, controlled environment, and it's just a wonderful change. The prosecutor and defender sign off on it. You have a professional interviewer who answers all the questions, make sure all the questions are answered that from both the prosecution and defense, but the child is never put under spotlights in a courtroom and forced to relive the trauma again. I was pleased to be a part of that. I was pleased to make contributions, and I was extremely proud of the number of Grosse Ile residents that were there that evening. So the more I learn about this program, the more passionate I am for supporting it. And to all my fellow residents who were there that evening, thanks for the support on it. Of course, my wife is working with the fundraising arm of this, and we'll do it again next year. But thanks for your support. And that completes my report. At this time, I'm going to ask for a minor revision to the agenda. We have, just as you were about to.
I think we might be on the same wavelength.
Yeah. We have the closed session first and then public comment. I request the board's permission to reverse that because it doesn't make sense for us to go to closed session and have you wait to make public comment. So unless I get a dissenting vote, I will move to open public comment at this time. So with that, we're now open public comment. You know the rules. Introduce yourself, 3 minutes, and factual statements only. Mrs. O'Connor.
Thank you. Uta O'Connor, 8148 Island Boulevard. I only have 3 minutes, Mr. Loftus, so please don't interrupt me. Mr. Budney, I think it's beautiful irony that you pointed out earlier today, because this time you sit on the board and I'm standing here at the podium, and we understand each other perfectly. I think you gave a very good synopsis of the situation at hand. I think while there was some opinion, you gave a complete rundown of events, and I do not believe that you were out of line. I'm speaking to you in part as a former clerk. I wanted to point out that Mr. Malvesto's opinion, anytime he expresses it, is merely his opinion. When he makes a vote, that is when he speaks officially. So any of you, your official vote speaks for you. And what you say 4 minutes before you vote, you can always change your vote. So I think it's improper to say that you assumed his support because he was not here to make a vote. And I think that had to be put in the record. One thing is, I think that Mr. Budney made very clear it's not the project. And at the risk of sounding like saying, oh, it's not you, it's me, it wasn't the project. It's actually a very nice project, and a lot of us like the idea of the project. But the way the process was not followed to bring this project forward, that's the problem you're dealing with here, Chief elected official Mr. Loftus. The process was not followed. At this meeting yourself, you admitted you do not know what the public wants. No project should come to the board for a vote of expenditure of $600,000 and you months later say we don't know what the public wants. You need to know what the public wants before you make that vote. And I'm very pleased, and I won't even call it courage. You all had common sense tonight to realize that this was a cluster. And even if you put it on hold, as Mr. Posey has suggested, we'd all still be on the hook for $600K. At some level. So we have a very good attorney. We pay him very well. He's got very strong negotiating skills. You've empowered him now to do what we all pay him to do. So thank you for bringing this to this conclusion. And as you move forward, remember the CRC can act as its own project manager. I served on that commission for many years, and our projects always had the full review of the commission. And you know how many times how long we sat up here grilling Tim Rooney. How many people are going to come? What's it going to cost? What's it going to generate? At budget time, you know, as a board, he was grilled over and over again, but the programs always added up. And that's your homework for this project. Bring it back, but do it right.
Thank you, Mrs. O'Connor. Other comment from the public present. Mrs. Walker.
Kathy Walker, Thorpe Court. I'm going to just ask a couple questions. First of all, I'm going to ask for Woody Clark. Legal fees. He called me and asked me.
$670 to O'Reilly Rensselaer.
Okay. He asked about a bump sign. Where are they? There was a bump sign on the road, and he said it's gone on the bridge. Where that?
I can answer.
Okay.
Would you like an answer?
Please.
Sure.
Woody called me last week. There was a sign on the west end of the county bridge for the bump between where the road was milled away and the county bridge grading starts. And what the county did apparently was make a little bit of a ramp with asphalt there, and then they removed the bump signs. I mean, I went down there. It is a little bit. I talked to the county. that's the reason they took it away, because they believe that is adequate. There's a little bit of bump, but I mean, I don't know what to tell you. It's.
Oh, we need. You've answered.
All right.
I mean, I don't
He's
know what to
home
tell you.
watching.
Thanks, Chief. You may not be done, Chief, so
No, I
go ahead,
think
Mrs.
you're-
Walker.
Okay. Skating rink fundraising. I have asked 3 consecutive months at the CRC meeting. The first month I got a very quick answer, which I have on my cell phone if you want to hear it, that it's going to be announced in a week, the fundraising. The next month I was told, I never said, by the chairman, he never said that. And then the last month he refused to answer me. I am asking you now. I understand it's $36,000 to $38,000. Are you going to fundraise? If you're not, where is that expense going to end up, Ann? You are the CPA. I don't understand which side. I know cash and I know expense. Tell me where it's going to end up.
My understanding is there is a but there's a tentative fundraiser scheduled for June 26th in the spring.
2016.
Correct.
So in the meanwhile, does it
It's just staying in an escrow fund right now.
Escrow fund.
So we have that balance, and it's staying there until money gets deposited.
Is this like an ongoing thing?
This is public comment.
Is that an ongoing thing?
It would be until the balance
Thank
gets
you.
removed.
Okay. And then lastly, I appreciate that you're going to that you canceled this. I was not for it. I also appreciate that the attorney is looking at minimizing the expense. However, wouldn't it be we wouldn't have this problem if the attorney had reviewed the contract first, if he had reviewed it and put in an escape clause, which almost every contract I've ever seen has. How much money, if we want to back out, how many days? That's why you pay an attorney. And I just don't understand why. Is there a process that was skipped? Is there a process that should be installed? When you have contracts of considerable, significant money, and I say significant as anything over, $250,000, $200,000, even $100,000. That's why we have this gentleman, or whoever will be the township attorney in the future. That's why we have it. You would not be going through this. You would not be worrying about losing $97,000 of our tax dollars, or whatever you end up negotiating, because you wouldn't have to. You'd have an escape clause, which is 101 business. Thank you very much.
Okay, Mr. Budney.
Mrs. Walker, what I would say to you, the contract did have the escape clause that we could get out of it. The problem is there's nothing in the contract that tells us what it's going to cost us. And you're right. So part of it. The
escape clause was if they don't deliver.
No. It said at our convenience we can cancel. Okay. That's in there, which is fine. I agree.
Okay, well, along those lines, if the board wants to establish a policy, let's bring a policy, we'll talk about it, and we'll adopt it. Up to now, very few of our contracts have gone to legal. Some of them, it doesn't matter if they go to legal. If it's a CDBG, if it's a federal contract, that's it. There's nothing to it. It's take it or leave it, sign or leave. So if we want to have attorney review, and Mr. Assorti and I have talked about it, it won't be expensive. They have excellent contract attorneys at O'Reilly Rancilio, and we'll do that. But there will be a cost, and some will be necessary, some it won't. So we'll make that. No, you may not. Mr. Snyder.
Tom Snyder, 8448 Rucker. Thank you for bringing up the road closures for tomorrow. The next one is I didn't hear any, during the reports, I didn't hear any recreation comment. Was there anything that was going on over the last couple of meetings? Because I haven't heard any reports coming from the liaison over the last 2 meetings.
Nothing was brought forward to me.
Okay. One of the things that has been discussed, Mr. Assorti, is to possibly have your input on the amount of money a contract should be without having it reviewed by you. And I'm hoping with your input, maybe this is something that can move forward that will help save the township some money in the future. So I'm hope that you will push that forward. Last but not least, I was very embarrassed after last Monday's meeting. I sat fairly quiet. Good friend of mine, a historian, talks about back in the 80s when Tip O'Neill was part of Congress when Ronald Reagan was in office. And one of the reporters asked him, how is it that a staunch Democrat can get along with Ronald Reagan so well? And Tip's answer was, he learned the idea of disagreeing without being disagreeable. You guys have 30 meetings left. I hope that you'll consider that as you guys move forward. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Snyder. Mr. Pilkington.
Good evening, Craig Pilkington, South Point. First of all, nobody wins in this. We all lose. And, I witnessed Safe Routes to School, which was alluded to earlier. I've witnessed so many things and so many mistakes that such intelligent people, when in a body, seem to make. I think the one thing we can learn from this is, and try to make improvements in process, and I think Mrs. Walker, who I historically probably doesn't agree with me on very much, she makes a very good point. I've already made my feelings known to you about this, that you need to put this in as policy and procedure, that whether it's above 50K, something along those lines, it's got to go for document review, any contract. Contracts are written. Everybody suggests it's boilerplate. Don't kid yourself. Contracts are written by one party, and they can be amended by the second party. And it's only good business, and especially if you've been burned in the past, you learn that you take a very close look at those terms and conditions. Now, I would do that if it was my money. I think it's incumbent upon the board to make this policy when you're dealing with the public's money. And this is just good business. Second thing, I think the initial excitement about this project was an invitation to discuss and to consider and to reach out to the public to find out what they wanted. Okay, it wasn't an invitation to immediately move. And nobody reached out to me. Supposedly something is going out through the schools. Even that, I'm wondering how that was worded, what questions were asked. It may be a moot point at this point, but you want to make sure that those things are credible and both qualitative and quantitative in character. You also don't just want to reach out through the schools, which is what we found out in Safe Routes to School, that we went and we talked to the parents in the neighborhoods, but we never talked to the other folks that lived in the neighborhoods if they didn't have kids. It needs to be a community. You need to have community input. I just hope we can learn from this. These are expensive lessons, and I'm very tired as your customer of paying for these expensive lessons. The last thing, St. James Rummage Sale also this weekend. October 2nd and 3rd. They're still accepting donations up through Thursday. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Pilkington. Other public comment? All right, with none offered, I will entertain a motion to recess and for purposes of considering closed session.
I would make the motion to recess.
So we will go into recess and reconvene in the second floor room. We will not be reconvening in this room, so we can go off the air at this point. And thank you, everyone, for coming. Oh, well, I was going to get in there, and then we're going to vote to go to closed. Do you want to do it here? No, we should. It's public, right. Okay, those in favor of adjourning to closed session, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
I'll second.
Okay, moved by Supervisor, seconded by Trustee Smith. Those in favor of adjourning to closed session, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? We will reconvene in 5 minutes in closed session in the second floor boardroom.
and needle pulling thread, laugh and note to follow saw, tea and drink with jam and bread that will bring us back to do, 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 do.